The purpose of school is supposed to be simple. It is meant to teach you three things: literacy, core critical thinking skills, and a lifelong love of learning. But if we look at schools globally, they are failing at all three. Instead of reading books, students are losing their attention spans. Instead of collaboration, school is treated as a zero-sum, cutthroat competition. And instead of loving learning, school actively teaches you to hate it. In many Asian countries, students literally burn their books after the final exam. They want to signal their liberation. They never want to learn again. We all know that the school system completely sucks, but people misunderstand why. The system is not broken. It is actually functioning exactly the way the players designed it. Today, we are using game theory to expose the hidden rules of education. To understand the game, Professor Jiang shared a personal story. Back in 2008, he had just graduated from Yale University and was hired to run a high school program in South China. The goal was to send Chinese students to top-tier American universities. But when Professor Jiang looked at what the students were actually doing, it was highly problematic. They were sitting in massive classrooms of 50 kids, completely silent, just taking notes. There was no debate, no critical thinking, and absolutely no communication. Instead of reading literature, they were just robotically memorizing SAT vocabulary lists to gain the standardized tests. So Professor Jiang decided to completely reform the system. He wanted them to not just get into an Ivy League school, but to actually do well in life. He replaced the massive silent classrooms with small interactive seminars. He built a massive 5,000-book English library so they could actually discover the joy of reading. He forced them out of their comfort zones. He helped them launch the first student-run coffee house in a Chinese high school, teaching them finance, collaboration, and entrepreneurship. They even launched a daily student newspaper. Kids were staying up until 2 in the morning editing articles, then waking up at 7 to deliver them across the campus, and it worked perfectly. It became the most famous program in South China. The students went to Yale, Wharton, and Cornell. It was an objective, undeniable success. But then something shocking happened. Despite creating the best study abroad program in the country, Professor Jiang was fired. Not only was he fired, but the parents, the administrators, and even some students were thrilled to see him go. He was completely blacklisted from management. Why? Because at the time, he didn't understand game theory. They didn't call him a visionary or a reformer. They called him a dictator. They called him an asshole. His fatal mistake was that he insisted on fairness. He didn't care who your wealthy parents were. If you wanted a good grade, you had to work hard and actually learn. And that pissed off all the powerful stakeholders, because fairness is not how the game of school is played, in China or anywhere else in the world. To understand any system, game theory requires you to map out the stakeholders, the players of the game. In education, you have students, parents, teachers, and administrators. When Professor Jiang started the reform, his assumption was that everyone wanted the best education possible. But game theory operates on a much darker, much simpler fundamental rule. The core rule of human behavior is this: every player wants to achieve the best possible result by doing the least amount of work possible. People are lazy and they are greedy. Let's analyze the real motivations of the players. First, the students. Students don't prioritize learning. Their primary goal is to be popular and simply please their parents to secure a comfortable life. Next, the parents. Parents don't actually care if their kid is learning critical thinking. What they are paying for is face, the social prestige of bragging about an Ivy League acceptance. Parents treat international education as a luxury product. They don't analyze the curriculum. They look for expensive tuition and foreign marketing to validate their social status. Then you have the teachers. For the vast majority, this is just a job. They have their own families. Their goal is to do the minimum required to collect their salary and go home. And finally, the school administrators. They are not trying to change the world. Their only goal is to protect their relationships with the most powerful, wealthiest parents so they don't get fired.
When you take all of these selfish motivations, minimum effort, social prestige, paycheck survival, and appeasing the rich, you have to find the point where they all intersect. In game theory, this is called the convergence point. The rules of the game are established only when all the players' selfish interests perfectly align. So, what does that convergence point look like in modern schools? It results in a system that focuses heavily on beautiful marketing rather than actual education. It creates a culture of easy grades. If you give an easy A, the student is happy, the parent gets their prestige, the teacher avoids a confrontation, and the admin keeps their job. It creates systemic cheating. If a student fails, parents complain. If parents complain, the admin forces the teacher to change the grade. The path of least resistance is to just pass everyone. And it creates high turnover. Good teachers who actually want to reform the system burn out and leave, quickly replaced by those willing to just play the game. This is exactly why Professor Jiang was fired. He came in as an outsider and tried to act like God. He tried to force the players to play a completely different game based on fairness and hard work. But his rules violated the convergence point. He made the students work too hard, he made the teachers stay up too late, and he refused to give wealthy parents special treatment. When you subvert the established norms and values of a system, the players will unite against you. The greatest psychological fear for any human is ostracization, being exiled from the group. The stakeholders used ostracization to remove the threat and protect their comfortable zero-effort ecosystem. That is the raw, unapologetic truth of institutional mechanics. You cannot implement reform in education, in business, or in geopolitics by simply forcing your ideals onto a system. Ideals do not change human behavior. Game theory teaches us that change only happens when you understand the exact selfish incentives of every stakeholder involved. You have to accept the game for what it is, not what you wish it to be. You have to find their convergence point and slowly, incrementally shift it. We are constantly adapting to the games we are forced to play. The way you behave right now is simply a response to the rules and incentives of your current environment. If you are miserable in school or in your career, it is because you are playing a game designed to extract your energy while rewarding minimum effort compliance. But once you understand the board, you stop being a pawn. You can start protecting your energy, navigating the stakeholders, and playing the game to your actual advantage. School sucks because the players designed it to suck, but your life doesn't have to. You just have to learn how to see the matrix. Do you agree with Professor Jiang's brutal assessment of the school system? Have you experienced this exact convergence point in your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And don't forget to step outside the matrix, like, and subscribe.